Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Renew Podcast. I am your host, Kristen Andre, and we, as always, are helping you reclaim your business and your life without losing your edge. And today's episode is going to be a really fun one. I'm excited about this because I have brought in my friend, Michelle Miller, who is an attorney by background, a consulting in the workplace injury space, or consultant, excuse me. But today, she is our expert on all things pop culture. So I'm excited to have you here. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I don't know if I'd say expert, but it's something I enjoy discussing for sure.
You know what? Well, it was funny. So Michelle and I met through a mutual friend, and we started talking about it. And our friend Casey that introduced, like, she knows all things Kardashian. And I got to say, I wasn't expecting that from an attorney. I don't know why. I mean, maybe I guess TMZ's run by attorneys, and they know all things Kardashian. So
I actually think that that's one of the reasons Casey mentioned it, and one of the reasons that most of the people in my life give me a hard time about it, because maybe that's something that's a little surprising. But I don't know. I enjoy the reality TV stuff.
It's funny. So when we started talking about this, I am not a reality TV person. I'm not even a TV person, to tell you the truth. I don't watch much. So this ought to be fun, because what I wanted to talk about, and why I'm glad you're here, is the effect that pop culture has on our world. Like, it's huge right now. Like, everybody, even if you don't watch the Kardashians, you know who they are. How did you get into, like, all the watching all the shows and the everything?
I actually wasn't into the Kardashians from the beginning. I don't remember exactly when I got into them, but and for sort of being so interested in watching their show, there's really a lot of reality TV that I'm not into. I mean, I've never seen an episode of Real Housewives, and I've
actually seen a few of those.
Okay.
Because a friend of mine's sister, when I lived up north, a friend of mine's sister was one of the New York ones, and I've met her, and she's a sweetie. But I only watched it a couple times.
I don't know. The internet, obviously, the last couple decades is so prevalent. You can log on and see all kinds of fun stuff to read immediately, and a lot of it is the TV part too. I mean, I actually don't really watch a ton of TV either, but when I'm sitting down to watch TV, I want it to be something that I can just sort of like zone out and not have to really use a lot of brain power, after the rest of the day.
Yep.
And I don't know. It's but yeah, you're not alone in that confusing you about me. I think a lot of people are like, why would someone like you be so into that?
But I think because I don't know why. I don't know if I associated with, you being highly intelligent with not watching reality TV. I don't know. But I get the zoning out thing, because I don't watch a ton of TV, but when I do, it tends to be either a Hallmark Channel or basically a rom-com that like a 16-year-old girl would like Mean Girls or something like that, which is, and it's for exactly the reason you said. You can kind of zone out. You don't really have to think about it.
Yep.
But I think pop culture has played a huge role in, like, the way people show up and act and think. I mean, do you see the kind of the connection? What do you think when you think pop culture and like TV and reality TV and all that? How do you think it affects our world?
Absolutely. I mean, and not just, pop culture has had an impact on the world since the beginning of media, right? Forget about the internet. I mean, just any type of media. But then, obviously with the rise in the internet and the immediacy with which we can constantly receive information, and have stuff available. I mean, even kids, look at how pop culture affects their life. Pop culture allows people to connect and bond, right, over certain things. Like, we love this movie, we love this kind of music. Two people love craft beer, great.
Yeah.
And, even little kids. I have a 5 and a 7-year-old, and they're both super into Pokemon, and that's their whole friend circle right now, right? And so that's certainly an element of pop culture.
Do you think it makes it harder for kids? Like, because growing up, and I know I'm older than you, but like, I grew up in the South, so we had the Dukes of Hazzard and the Love Boat. Those were like the two shows I remember. And I don't know that it did a whole lot to mold my world or shape my life, but now I feel like a lot of the things people are doing, their whole life revolves around it.
That's true. And even though you may not feel like it really molded your life, right, you still probably find yourself. I mean, I know that I do. I meet people who are generally around my age right now, and you can make certain references.
Yes.
Like, I was growing up, I was incredibly into Beverly Hills 90210, like a lot of other people who were
I remember that one. Yep.
Teenagers of the 90s.
I had kids by that point, but yeah. We used to do watch parties.
And so, right.
Yeah.
So interestingly, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this, but
You
we
can
are,
admit
we
it.
are here talking about pop culture.
No one's going to tell.
A couple of years ago when they released the new 90210
Right.
show or whatever, I mean, I think that was 2019. I had a watch party. I had people over. We had a thing. I had photo props. It was great. Really
That's
good time.
fantastic.
But that's a
Okay.
perfect example of bonding over pop culture, right? I mean, the show was terrible. It was, nothing.
I
Didn't,
did see that
whatever.
one. It wasn't great.
No, it was not great. But I had a common thread with other people who were interested in getting together to watch it because it was people who all grew up during the same time,
Yep.
and that was an effect that pop culture had.
I think we did that with that and Melrose Place and Sex and the City. Earlier I remember we used to watch Sex and the City with my friends, and we all took the quiz, to see who we were. I don't know if you did. I mean, you guys may have been a little bit young for that, but you could take an online
we
quiz to
definitely
figure out
did.
which person you. I had no Samantha, which is probably good. I mean, Mom, if you're listening, I had none of the sleazy one in the mix. But I think it's a tie that brings us all together, which is exciting. Do you see any differences now versus back then? Because now the reality TV shows, like these were all scripted, 90210 and all that stuff was scripted. Now with the reality TV, the only challenge or the biggest challenge I've had with it, and that's why I'm curious to your take because I don't watch it, is that I feel like it creates these unrealistic expectations. I feel like everybody wants to be a Kardashian. And not everybody's going to be a Kardashian. Their family's kind of tapped out right now. I mean, you can marry into them. Pete's working his way in. But, I mean,
right.
Is it realistic? Is it getting people thinking that, they can do things? I want everybody thinking they can accomplish everything, but it just seems a little off to me.
No, that's definitely a possible take. I mean, for me personally, that's not how I think of it. Again, like you and I talked about, it's just sort of an outlet to zone and turn my brain off and
Right.
be entertained. And scripted, obviously there's a ton of competing theories on that. I'm sure there are clearly, things thrown
for
out
sure.
there that,
Yeah.
that the plot lines are worked around. But they also are real people with real lives. When it comes to the show, it's like by the time you're watching the show, you've seen 3 months ago on Twitter, what actually happened
Right.
or whatever.
So for the 4 people listening who have never heard of or seen the Kardashians, how do you describe the show? Like when you watch it, what brought you into it? I think they're interesting characters. Like if I will say I only know them from following them online. I like Kylie the best just because I feel like she is at such a young age has a great business mind. I mean, say what you want about them. They've made a business out of this. So I feel like there's a lot of business savvy in there. So I actually like Kylie. I will say every single one of them, they make some bad relationship choices.
Sure.
I'm just going to go on a limb and say that from what I've seen on
But
the
who
on the
among
interwebs.
us, I mean, it's reality television. It's,
Oh,
you
you
can
don't-
relate to that, right?
We could have a reality TV show about the bad relationship choices I've made, but we could beat the Kardashians for sure. But it's interesting. So how would you describe it? Like, how do you describe them as a family unit, as people? Like, what do you love about them as people, and what do you feel like is really the thing that's drawing other folks to them? Because you could follow anybody around.
Sure.
Why them?
And the business savvy that you mentioned about Kylie is always sort of a point that I make to people who, talk about how much they don't like them and why are they famous? They're famous for no reason. And my husband and my friends kind of tease me that I get defensive when when people mention them as if
That's
they're
so
my
fun.
personal
She's
friends.
Well, Tommy's watching. He says he loves him some Kendall.
Yeah, so I don't know if you saw, you and I before we went on this morning, we're talking about the Met Gala last night, and I didn't get to watch as much of the red carpet as I normally would award show, but Kendall wore this insane dress. Did you see it?
I miss it. Now, I did watch a bunch of it only for the fashion because I do really enjoy fashion.
Same.
And my youngest, Kennedy, who loves fashion, we were watching it. I saw Kim with her platinum hair and the Marilyn Monroe dress,
Yes.
but I did not see.
And there's a lot to unpack about that. There were several articles just about her, Kim's
That's
outfit
just
and the dress and all that.
fascinating
But
to me.
Kendall,
If you guys would like to write articles about what I'm wearing today, shockingly, it's all black. But I think that, there's a lot to unpack there, too.
you are not. You look lovely, but you are not wearing Marilyn Monroe's original
No,
gown
right?
from the JFK
I would totally
dance,
wear
so-
it. I'd have to starve myself for a month. But, well, they said,
Well,
I
she
did
actually
read that.
did too.
It
Did you
said
read that?
I did read that. And this is where I get my reality TV news. I'm not up on it as it seems because I do read a lot online. But it said she didn't eat. This was a good thing. It said for 3 weeks she didn't eat sugar and carbs. I could do that. I feel like I could do that.
Yeah, she says that she actually did not starve herself. She said she didn't eat sugar or carbs for a month. She just stuck to like protein and veggies. She wore a sauna suit and ran like twice a day to just try to like shed water weight. Because the first time she tried it on, it was like it wouldn't zip up, and so she was like, "There's no other option. This is what I want to wear to the Met."
Yeah.
Because the Met Gala, unlike other award shows, are sort of going for like the shock value.
Oh yeah.
They want.
That's why I wanted to watch the red carpet because it was fascinating.
Yeah.
But see, that's pop culture. Like I like fashion, so to me, the epitome of fashion for all the award shows is the Met Gala because you just don't know what you're going to see. I still don't know who the guy is that had the spiky, looked like a porcupine. That he had the spiky thing they thought was Jared Leto, but it wasn't.
I don't know who that is.
We still don't know who he is. There's a mystery man there for those of you guys that watch the Met Gala.
Fredrickson or something. I don't remember his name, but I didn't know who he was either. I did see the whole hubbub about everyone thinking he was Jared Leto.
But I think people, I saw that first, but I think people were watching, and the reason they watched the show, like, admittedly, I don't watch it, but I do read about him online. So I feel like I know a lot. I mean, it's hard to get me to sit down to watch for 30 minutes to watch anything.
Well, and there's a lot in the show about, you mentioned Kylie. If you go back and watch like the first and second season of the Kardashians, she's like a 9-year-old kid. She's just adorable and innocent.
Has it been on that long? How many years has it been on? Like 10, more than a decade, right?
Oh, yes, for sure.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So yeah, she and Kendall were just little kids when they started filming, and she looks so just young and cute, and obviously had not done anything to her face or any of that stuff. But the business savvy portion of it is something that's sort of cool. Yes, to your point, if you follow anybody around all day long, me and you included, you could certainly come up with 30 minutes of footage making us look like an idiot.
I think they could come up with far more for that for me. But
same.
Well, but in this, I think that's. The thing with reality TV is, I feel like they can make them look however they want. They could make. You could make me look like the nicest person in the world, and if you cut and edit the right things, you could make me look like a total, just crazy woman too. Probably not crazy woman, but really mean at least.
Totally, which is what they do, and I think that from what I heard, this new. The Kardashians in its original form just ended last year, right? That they showed on E! For 15 seasons or however many it was. And then this new show that has just started is on Hulu. And because it's streaming on that, I think the family feels like they're allowed a lot more liberties in terms of choosing what's portrayed and how and whatever. And it's just a different platform and format than it was when the show was on E!
So are they getting a little bit more constrained, or are they just like, hey... we're putting it all out there.
I think less constrained, and they they have a lot more say so as to like what is aired and how it's shown, and also obviously things like language and whatever. If you're streaming something on a platform like Hulu versus showing it on E! You get to show a lot more.
You can say a lot more. You get a lot more saucy.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So what? So being the Kardashian, I know you've got, and for those of you guys that are watching us live, I don't know if you can see this, but if you're not watching us live, Michelle has her Kardashian pin on right now. She's got a lapel pin that's got little Kim K right here with her ponytail. This is legit fan.
So,
you do also have on a Wonder Woman shirt, which is my favorite superhero. So I'm pop culture superhero all day long.
Yes.
I just don't know the Kardashians as much.
So the pin, I went through an enamel pin phase, maybe, I don't even know, 7-8 years ago. And so I have several. One of them is Kim Kardashian.
Pin phase. I feel like it was the 90s. Wasn't it the 90s? No, it wasn't.
Oh, yes. Everything
comes
back
the
around.
Pin. I had my Duran Duran buttons. You wouldn't have known that. I don't even think you were born then. But yeah, we had little buttons we used to put on our jackets.
Yes. So these enamel pins, I don't remember exactly what it was, sometime between 5 and 10 years ago. I went through a phase, had a lot of them. This happens to be one of the ones that I have. And so this morning I was like, well, this is an appropriate day to wear it.
I think she got to dust off her Kim K pin here.
Yes.
I think it's cool, but it goes to show you, if they're making an enamel pin of people, that's a big deal. They really have taken, even if you don't watch them, you know who the Kardashians are. So with everything they've been through as a family, which is a lot, we've had a lot of babies. We've had a lot of babies without marriages, just whatever. They seem to have done it in an opposite order than the popular, most people do. However, I'm not one to judge. I am a very non-judgment zone, but what's been interesting to me is I feel like celebrities get away with so many things that the rest of us wouldn't get away with.
Totally. People definitely don't judge them the same way as they would you or me if we did.
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we did
So
something like
why
that,
is that? Is it because they are like popular and because people have seen them on TV for years?
I think in large part, yeah.
So is that fair? What do you think? With your legal mind.
Fair. I mean, people are
Yeah.
gonna issue.
I don't know. Let me ask you this. Would you want to be a celebrity? Like that level of scrutiny celebrity? If we could plop you in the Kardashian family, that's probably not a good example.
I
'cause
don't.
you'd
No,
say
no, no.
yes.
No, I think I would say no. I mean, yeah. The thing about loving the Kardashians so much, it's sort of a joke. Like, yes, I do
Yeah.
like them. I keep up with what's going on and whatever.
Good name
but
for a show.
right. I keep up with the Kardashians. But yeah, I mean, I'm not obsessed with them. You want to see, like, when you scroll through your social media when articles are posted about the Kardashians, the comments section is a really great place to go to see
Yeah.
both people who are genuinely obsessed with them and people who just hate them with every
Yep.
fiber of their being. It's very entertaining.
I will say, I have been known to go down the comment section rabbit hole.
Comment section of any topic is just gold.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And if you're bored on a Sunday, to going down to like find a politically polarizing post and just go down that rabbit hole. And it's so funny. But that shows to me like again, not being a fan, I would say I do have a healthy respect for them because there is no way on God's green earth I would want cameras following me 24/7. I mean, they can't even go to Kroger and without 80 million cameras in their face. It's just a huge level of scrutiny, which
Definitely.
I think would be unbearable for most people.
Yeah, and to answer your question, no. I mean, all jokes aside, I would not choose that if given the option. If I could, do something piecemeal, I would love like a once in a lifetime chance to attend a red carpet of an award show.
That's on my bucket
like
list.
you and I were talking about before. I mean,
Yeah.
just the fashion. Like usually when there's an award show on, I will watch just the red carpet. A lot of times you can find me live tweeting the fashion on the award show. And then when the actual show comes on, I'll turn it off. I mean, a lot of times I don't really care about the actual
Right.
show. If I have a chance, maybe I'll watch it. A lot of times they change dresses, for the show. But yeah, I'm with you on the red
I
carpet.
watch
So I
it
would
for
love
the
a chance to
fashion,
do
too.
that.
Yeah, I watch it and I'm curious though. So for those of you guys listening, I'm curious who your favorite pop culture is person. Drop it in the comments and let us know because we're focusing on the Kardashians a little bit because one, they're all over the place. Everybody knows them. But if
over.
we really think about pop culture and how much it affects us, and not just reality TV, but everything. You mentioned award shows. I'm like you. I love the fashion, but that's just because I like fashion. And I did have the Oscars on in the background. I literally just, my TV happened to be on. I was doing some work. So I did see the infamous Will slap, right?
Sure.
So that was nuts. I thought something broke. I was like, oh, is it a bit? My sound went out. I didn't know what went on, but that just was everywhere. You couldn't turn on the TV station or open up social media or look at a publication for like weeks after that without reading about that.
Yeah.
So it's like anything celebrities do, it becomes all consuming for the masses.
Well, exactly. And it's, even things that, the example you just gave, I mean, the Oscars, was that slap stage, was it not? We could do a whole podcast about that.
Yeah.
But the, an award show, that's something that is being televised for entertainment purposes, right? The Kardashians show, that's something that's being televised for entertainment purposes. But even things that involve celebrities that are not intended to be entertainment, i.e., the trial that's going on right now,
Yes.
become part of our pop culture, right? It's like they just happen to both be famous.
Yep.
And so people are, super involved and caught up in what's going on, even though like this is, they're very serious allegations and it's a big deal.
Well, let's think about that for a minute. So the trial she's talking about is obviously for if you guys listen to this and replay, it's Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. They're I guess it's his defamation trial because they were in a marriage. They were a little wackadoodle. We had wackadoodle things happening. Apparently she beat him up. I don't know. Who knows? But allegedly, I know the attorney here. Let me just say allegedly, here's what happened. I mean, it keeps saying that everybody's listening. They are broadcasting the trial.
Yep.
Like, I'm not sitting there watching it, but I'm quite sure there are people sitting there watching it. Now, I will say I do love me some Johnny Depp. My favorite, I mean, we're talking swoon here because I have a friend that has a home where in the same place in Colorado where he has a home, and every time when I was out there, I'm looking at the sky for helicopters, thinking I'm gonna run into Johnny Depp. Like Johnny Depp was my former Kardashian. If I had a Kardashian level crush on a celebrity, it'd probably be John. It's really Keanu, but he stays out of trouble. So beyond Keanu, we're gonna go with Johnny, and Johnny is I love, like, he's just quirky and he's funny and he's great. Like, I loved him in Benny and June, and Edward Scissorhands was my two favorites for him. Way more than Pirates of the Caribbean. Benny and June
God,
was
you're
my
really
favorite.
throwing it back there.
I'm
with
throwing
those.
it back there. Am I aging myself? People listening going, I've never even heard of Benny. If you haven't heard of Benny and June, you need to watch it because it was so good. But anyway, with Johnny Depp, I'm watching this trial. With the poor thing, it's being televised, and he's cutting a few jokes, which I would be too if I was sitting there for 87 million hours a day. But everybody's fixated on this trial. And I hate that for him because it cost him his career. It really did. No one's they aren't doing the next Pirates of the Caribbean. They're not doing all kind of stuff. The poor guy, Johnny, if you need a hug, I am here for you. But I mean, this is part of pop culture. Like, you're in the spotlight. He didn't.
Yep.
Obviously, he had a lot. He's made a lot of money. He's done very well. Amber has made a lot of money through settlements and people she's gone out with. I don't know. I really don't. I've never seen. I'm sure I've seen something she's in, but she's irrelevant in my book to me. But I hate that it crushed his career. I mean, I think that's the challenge with pop culture is we did an episode on cancel culture, so I'll touch on it because those of you guys that have listened to the show before know I'm adamantly opposed to cancel culture. It ticks me off like nobody's business, but I mean, this is what happened. He got canceled because crazy woman made some accusations, and they may be true. I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Would you feel the same way and feel really bad for him if it turns out that he was, for years, like, beating the crap out of her and what she's saying is true? Would you still feel bad for him?
I would. That's a tough one. So I personally don't think what she's saying is true because all the audio and everything that's coming up is like, this woman's crazy. But I don't know. I'm not. I mean, that's the thing. I'm not there listening to the trial. Would I still like him as much as a person? No. Do I think, if that happened, should he face consequences and charges? For sure. Absolutely. And those consequences and charges should end his career. What shouldn't end his career is somebody saying you're a bad person.
Sure.
I think that's the problem I have is like, yeah, if you break the law, heck yeah, face the consequences. But we just don't know. And I think we all, if you look at the trial, because I've seen some of the comments on, same thing, the comment section, some people are all about him and some people are all on her. We've got Team Johnny and Team Amber.
Oh, yeah.
And we're getting, apparently our followers are Team Johnny all the way because we're getting... AH is cray. It's true.
I see it. Yeah.
Oh, Laura just had a good point. She said she learned working for divorce attorneys there are three sides to every divorce: his, hers, and the truth. I agree with that. I would agree. My divorce, obviously, mine was the truth. No, I'm just teasing. But having been there, it's true because we all shape. That's what's interesting about pop culture too, is we all have our own opinions, and each of our opinions are shaped on our past circumstances. So if somebody who grew up with very strong male role models who were very respectful and kind, they're probably sitting there going, oh, this woman's crazy. I could never imagine him doing that. And people that grew up in abusive situations may say, oh, you know what? I saw that twinkle in his eye and it means I think we're assigning our own set of beliefs to somebody else's situation.
Sure. And there's just, I'm interested to hear, just all the rest of the testimony. She's going to take the stand, and I haven't watched any of the trial footage. I've been following it fairly closely online, just reading the recaps.
I only watch
and
the
stuff.
clips that they show online. I don't have time to sit and watch the trial.
Right.
I think, first of all, the fact that they are televising this is ridiculous.
It's insane, but that's
absolutely
just a perfect example of exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
The pop culture and its impact on society. They both happen to be famous. Him obviously way more so than her. And, this is a very, very public trial. It's very big, big deal in this day and age. And
I
it's,
just think I hate that. I hate that for them both. Obviously, I'm going to remain Team Johnny until something drastically. I'm really not on a team. I don't care because it doesn't affect me. But I think that's the interesting thing with pop culture is we get so, and I say we, I mean y'all listening, not me. People get so into this that it affects their lives. Like honestly, whatever happens in their trial is irrelevant to 99.9999% of the population. But there are people sitting here consuming it all day.
Well, and I mean this specifically, particularly in today's climate and events that have transpired in, the last few years. I mean, she's calling herself a domestic abuse victim, sexually and physically and whatever. And obviously that's a big deal. Unfortunately, over the last few years, women have been given this much bigger platform to be able to speak out about things like this. And they're being given the deference and the platform much more so than in past years. So, I do think the outcome of this trial will be significant in terms of, maybe not like a direct impact on your life, but just in terms of, women and abuse and survivors and speaking out and all of that kind of stuff.
I agree with that. And I think Laura had just commented that it goes to show how important who you marry is. It can cost you way more than money. That's true.
Right.
Because honestly, this could have been settled privately. It really could have, and so it those of us who have been through divorce or my divorce had nothing to do with domestic abuse or anything, but the people that have, you feel for them, but most of them aren't having to discuss this and relive this and rehash this in a public forum. And I feel like it's like the car wreck we can't turn away from, Culture's just kind of gotten to the point where everybody wants to watch, but you're right. People have a much bigger platform now. And I feel like the pop culture is leading to that. Like the things we're showing on TV, and we didn't have what did we have? We had the People's Court back in the 80s with Judge Wapner. Do you remember the People's Court?
Yes.
With Judge Wapner. We still have Judge Judy, who I do like Judge Judy because she's got some sass about her.
She's hilarious.
She's really funny. I think I admire her. But those are silly, in most cases, trivial cases. They're not criminal or anything like that.
Right.
But I feel like the society, I don't know if it's just that they want to watch the train wreck. I don't know, but I feel like we've popularized, is that a word? We've made popular the craziness out there. And no wonder the world's going wackadoodle is because everything we watch on TV, it's that shock value. Like we used to think Howard Stern 20 years ago was, he was the shock jock, like the things he said. He's like G-rated now compared to what we see on TV.
Right. That's like earlier you were mentioning Sex and the City and Samantha and whatever. I mean, that was like 20 years ago. And the reason that Sex and the City was so popular is because it was so risque and it was talking about things that at that time were so taboo and had not been televised. And like now, if that came out, it's like no big deal.
Yeah.
Even Samantha, it's not nearly the impact as it had 20 years ago when the show first came out.
Because it was scandalous when it came out. I was blushing watching the show. But it was like, it's just so tame now.
I actually don't think I was even allowed
you probably
to
weren't.
watch it. I would go over to my friend's house who had HBO,
funny.
And we would watch in her room, and I was probably like breaking some kind of rule. I don't know.
Well,
but
it was, if we think about that, like back in the day when MTV's and I'm going to date myself, but I'm in my 50s. So when MTV first came out, we weren't allowed to watch MTV. My mom forbid it. We weren't, and this was back when MTV actually had videos. So like, I remember the band, if anybody older is listening, I need to know if y'all remember this, the band Quiet Riot. And it was, We're Not Gonna Take It. And it was like an abomination. Like my mom, you would have thought, it's a wonder she didn't make me sit in church for a month. But it was not, like looking back now, it's not bad. But I feel like we're allowing everything to go so far. And then I don't know. I mean, I like pop culture. I think it does help shape things like fashion and things like that. But you mentioned earlier, a lot of people have a really large platform right now. So it is going to shape things. And I think I want to see something good happen in pop culture. Like I want to see us start to pay attention to all the good stuff. But I don't know if anybody'd watch it.
Right. I mean, yeah, people want to watch the train wreck, like you said. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of negative to it. But, there's good and bad to everything. And, just the access to that information and the ability to follow and be involved and all of that stuff is, not all bad. I
So
think of a televised trial, and the first thing that pops into my mind is the OJ trial. Like that was
yes.
the publicized trial of my life,
Yeah.
childhood
Yeah.
or whatever. I don't remember how old I was, but I mean that was a huge deal. You
It was
remember
a huge deal.
the ability of everybody to be able to follow along with that in real time
Right.
was seemingly unprecedented. I mean, I'm sure it had happened before, but in my
It
mind,
was, yeah, but I mean, at the same time, I remember that I think I was in my mid-20s at the time, and it was over all the time. And what was interesting though, that was a criminal case, that was a murder trial, like a murder trial.
mm-hmm.
Most of the stuff we're watching now is not a murder trial.
Right.
Not that one crime, is larger than the other.
No, but it's
murder. I think
serious.
kind of trumps it. It's serious. But
I'd say so.
now, yeah, now we've got all this opportunity. I still am voting for a good reality. Maybe that's why I watch Hallmark Channel. Like it's happy. Everything's happy. Everybody ends up together. They fall in love. They live happily ever after.
Oh yeah, Hallmark
works.
Christmas movies. I mean, you can't beat it.
They have them all year round. I don't know if you've missed out. If you'd quit watching the Kardashians,
I
you'd
know.
know that the Hallmark Channel now has movies year round. We've just made it through the Valentine's season.
Okay.
Now we're springing into love. So I'm sure we're going to have summer romances coming up soon, but you can watch it all year round. Maybe that's why on most days I'm happier.
Everyone needs their outlet to zone out, right?
Yes.
Hallmark,
Yes.
whatever it is.
I love it.
Yeah.
But I still think with all this, it's really interesting to me how I'm curious to see what it's going to shape the future. Like if you had to predict where, television and pop culture and its influence on us is going, where do you see it going? I know it's a tough question.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, definitely, I think sort of stepping back and looking at the world as a whole right now, it's, it's messy. And a lot of the points you made about how it's just like fostering this chaos,
Yes.
that's the first thing that comes to my mind. So that's not necessarily the most optimistic outlook on that. But
do you think it contributes to divisiveness?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
That's kind of what scares me about it a little bit. And like I said, I'm not bashing the celebrities because I'm about them all day long. But I think, anybody that's listened to the show for a while knows my two favorite celebrities. I'm curious if anybody can guess them. I want to hear it in the comments. Tommy, I know you're listening, so I'm gonna expect some guesses here. I have a favorite male and a favorite female celebrity.
Okay.
And for the most part, I won't say stay out of the media, but they're definitely not controversial. And I don't know if that's just me picking them or not. So, somebody just said nothing better. Thank you, Ashley. Nothing better than Hallmark movies. Ashley, we're going to have a watch party.
Totally. I am on board with that. I'm not sure I knew that they showed them year round, but I mean, at Christmas time, you can definitely find me watching some Hallmark movies.
Oh, yeah. No, you should expand. I don't know what time Kim K's coming on, but no, I think if we look at, for me personally, I always try to be positive, and I catch a lot of crap for that. I really do. People are like, you have to have negative things happen. And I do. I just don't fixate on it.
Sure.
And I think that's the challenge. The thing I'm worried about is if we're this upset because Jack Sparrow and his ex-spouse are mad and we have to take sides with a pirate and his ex-wife, like, come on, people, like, let's figure out. I'm cool if you watch it. I really, if that is your zone out thing, I think that's a great, great, great way. And I love that you approach it that way. But I see a lot of people will, die on a hill over some of these things.
And that's kind of how I've approached the trial. I mean, it's very interesting to follow, because we know the players, first of all, that are involved.
Yep.
And, just from an objective like data standpoint, seeing every day like what evidence is presented and what, and I actually do need to watch some of the footage. Do you follow the Instagram account Dumois? It's like a celebrity gossip.
No, I don't know that one. I have a couple tweets by celebs and stuff like that.
So it's anonymous. Like she gets anonymous tips and then she posts them on Instagram. So she just recently started a podcast a couple of months ago called Do You. It's DEUX. Do You. Anyway, she's been talking about the Amber Heard trial, obviously, and apparently some of the things that people are reporting is the most gossip-worthy thing about this trial is how atrocious the attorneys are. They don't know the rules of evidence, and it's like painful to watch and all of this stuff. And I'm like, so that is something that's interesting
Yeah.
to me. Also, I haven't yet actually turned it on and been able to
Well, I'm
watch
sure
some
as
of
attorney,
it, but
you're
I
going to
would
have
like
a
to.
different take on it than most people.
Well, and I mean, if true, that's shocking given how high profile the case
One would
it
think they
is,
could
and-
hire good attorneys.
Right. So it's that was an
Okay.
interesting tip to me. But yeah.
I do like following it. I mean, so I know I'm kind of kiboshing the I'm really not kiboshing the Kardashians, but
No, I understand. You're
with-
not alone. I get a lot of
Yeah.
similar
and
feedback.
it's not even you. Oh, and by the way, Ashley Heard says you're rocking it. So
Oh,
just
thanks,
so
Ash.
you know. See, she's Ashley. You might be a Kardashian fan too,
Oh,
or a
I
Michelle
doubt
fan.
it.
She's a Michelle fan. But
Ashley is a good friend. I highly doubt she's a Kardashian fan.
All right, so Ashley, you can come and watch Hallmark movies with me. But I think there's a role for and a reason for pop culture. Like we've got to have something to aspire to. But here's what I really want everybody listening to think about is I love celebrities. We're not getting any guesses on my favorite two. So let me just tell you, my favorite male celebrity is Keanu Reeves. See, Davis got
He
it
knew.
because he's heard this before. Davis has heard this before. That's right. I know. I've got it. But we've talked about on the show, and
That's
I
a
love
good
him
favorite.
because
Good
it's a
solid
great
pick.
favorite. One, he's pretty easy on the eyes. I'm not gonna lie
Sure.
to you. And something about him in those John Wick movies, like the movies where you're shooting up people, I'm all about it. Like that and superheroes. But anyway, the reason I like him is he is very humble. And he keeps a low profile, and he's not doing controversial things, and he's helping people without needing it to be televised. My favorite female, any guesses, Davis? My producer Davis usually knows these. So my favorite female is none other than the iconic and always amazing Miss Dolly Parton. I love Dolly Parton. I
Wow.
don't know why I love Dolly, but I have loved Dolly Parton forever. I think it's because she is unapologetically herself. Like she's just, somebody told her she looked cheap. One time she's like, it takes a lot of money to look this cheap. And I'm like, I just love you for that because she's fantastic. Like she doesn't care. But what I love about both of them is they're very public. They have a lot of scrutiny. They have a lot of haters and a lot of people that love them, but they're using their platform for good stuff. And I honestly think for the Kardashians, for the most part, like I really think they do good stuff. They have businesses. They help people.
Well, they do, and here's where it comes into play that my friends and my husband and everyone call me defensive. But yeah, I mean that's one of the many things that I always say. They do a lot of good things. They're not stupid. They're
definitely not
all
stupid.
clearly
No.
have a very strong business savvy. They do a lot of good things, and even people who don't follow the Kardashians as the reality family right now, a lot of them knew Robert Kardashian,
Yep.
when he was alive and his involvement in the OJ trial.
trial.
He and OJ were best friends and all of that stuff. And what you see in snippets of the show, if you really watch and you're a true devotee
If you've
over the
watched
years,
every episode like Michelle has.
some things that you will see in there is it seems like Robert Kardashian really was a really good person and really had a strong influence on their lives growing up. I mean, he always used to take them, the kids, over to Skid Row and pass out blankets to the homeless. And, he had a really strong Christian faith, and they, all would go to church together. And I think the family still does and still is very, devout in their faith and everything. And a lot of that sounds like it came from Robert
From him.
Kardashian.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, it's,
Yeah, I think it. I don't know enough about them to have to wish them any ill will, and I think, but that's what's interesting to me is they are so iconic. I mean, the reason I know them is because I knew him from the trial, but the reason I know them is because of the shows. And I do think, the reason I mentioned Kylie earlier is because of the business savvy she has at such a young age. So I'm a business strategist. So at the end of the day, I'm respecting people's ability to take something and monetize it and to do all this, which they've done. They're printing their own money at this point.
well, so look at, how are they famous in the first place, right? Kim had this thing happen to her, right? Her boyfriend exploits her, we won't get into that.
Yeah.
But
no, we can get into it. 'cause-
Okay, I
'cause
didn't know
let's-
how censored this is.
I don't know. We're PG rated, but let's not,
Right,
we're-
so she and her boyfriend make a sex tape,
Yeah.
right? He releases
So note
it.
to the girls listening, especially if my daughters are listening, don't make sex tapes. Well, I don't know. It worked out for her
Right,
financially.
okay. So you can argue, should she have done that? Not whatever. Like,
Yeah.
he was her boyfriend. They made a sex tape, whatever. And he released it, right? He screws her over, and she talk about monetizing something. I mean, she insanely
Somebody
capitalized
releases
on
a
that.
sex tape of me. There's not any out there, but if somebody releases one of me, oh heck yeah, I'm monetizing it. I
Right,
mean,
so-
let's be real.
Based upon that, she has been able to build this empire for her entire family. You know, I mean, you can say she's famous for no reason, but she took a bad situation and she sure as hell made it into a good
Well,
one, you know?
I knew about that, but I didn't realize that's kind of what catapulted her into her fame. I
It
mean, I know
is.
there was
She,
some other
even
variables,
before
too.
that, I mean, you know, she was sort of in that social world. She was best friends with Paris Hilton, who was already
Oh,
a
well, that probably
reality
helps.
star.
Yeah.
Right. So she was, when Paris did that reality show, The Simple Life, Kim was her, I think she was her personal assistant, actually. So she was already, and I think she was actually on a few episodes
In
of the show.
circles. Okay.
She was in the circle, but the sex tape release, I think, which was 2006, 2007, that was what really like pushed her into the spotlight and gave her this, you know,
Y'all, guys,
opportunity.
I mean, I appreciate that she made money and monetized it. But if you guys are out there, for those of you, I know y'all aren't listening to the show, but if you men are out there and you're holding on to a sex tape from your ex-girlfriend, destroy it. Be a decent human. I mean, let's for real. So if you're going to not be a decent human, I think she should have. I would have put him under the jail at that point. But this is where, you know, these are all the tidbits I didn't know. I think I remember hearing about that because wasn't there another one and stuff would I don't know. But
Yeah, recently there's been some more in that
we do
realm.
we do like the train wrecks. I'm really impressed with how much you know about all this. I don't know this many facts
Thank
about
you,
Keanu.
I think.
I don't know this many facts about Keanu and Dolly. I need to beef up my trivia.
Well, I mean, you know, they're not currently every time you open your internet browser, you're not seeing
No,
them
but
like
I
you
would-
are the Kardashian
I
family.
would love
you know?
that. I follow Dolly's Imagination Library on Facebook, but there hasn't really been anything scandalous. But that goes to the fact is we remember the crazy stuff. We remember the wild stories, and I think that's why pop culture has gravitated. It scares me a little bit. Like, you know, as kid, you've got young kids. I have, you know, older and adult kids, and it scares me to kind of think where this is shifting. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like the stuff that we weren't allowed to watch, you know, like to your point, we weren't allowed to watch this. It's going to be second nature in 20 years. So I'm
Totally.
a little nervous about where we might be headed. Where do you think we're going?
No, thinking about my kids growing up in this age is not pleasant. Obviously, there's a lot of good things, but yeah, I mean, the ability with which they're going to be able to quickly and easily access anything that they want to see, don't want to see. I mean, there's definitely some concerns, but you know.
So let's think about that for a minute. What advice do you have for parents?
Oh, geez.
Because I think I'm beginning to think my kids might be a lost cause at this point, at this age. They've seen everything. It's all accessible. Like I try to always be positive, and what's funny is I've mentioned that multiple times before. I said it earlier. I catch grief from people because I tend to keep things positive online. Like I talk about positive things on the show. I post positive stuff, and people are like, "You're not being real. You know these terrible things." I'm like, "Yeah, terrible things happen. Absolutely. I
Look,
just don't post about them."
No matter what any of us says or does, you're never going to make everyone happy. You're going to catch grief from some people for something. So the fact that you catch grief for being a little too positive sounds like best case scenario. I mean, you know, people could say worse things.
That's true.
I think that's a great quality, because to your point, you're not ignoring reality. You don't have to focus on the negative. All that's going to do is put your mindset there. Like what is in your brain becomes, you know, the old adage, like what's in your brain becomes your words become your actions, whatever. Like
That's
if all
true.
you're doing is focusing on the negative, even if that's part of what's really happening, it's just going to be a downward spiral for your outlook and the rest
Yeah.
of how you live your life, I think.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. All right, we got some pushback here. Laura's saying, did we really just say a publicized sex tape and a woman capitalizing on it's a good idea? I don't think it's a good idea, but I think it's out there anyway.
Fair.
I mean, I think I totally get what you're saying. I'm not advocating go do that at all. I don't think you should be making one anyway, but I do know of cases where ones have been made that the person didn't know about. That's a bad thing. So that happens to me. I'm pressing some charges, but
Sure.
in light of that, she made money out of it. You know,
I think
don't
she
know.
knew about it, but she was just like, she didn't intend for anybody else to see it.
Well, y'all need to be thinking about these things.
Sure,
If
sure.
your boyfriend says, "Can I turn on the camera?" the answer should be no, unless you're willing to
nowadays-
face the consequences for whatever could come from that.
I mean, yeah, we're talking 15 years ago too. I mean, nowadays there's smartphones everywhere. I talk with my friends all the time about how glad we are that
Yeah.
there were no iPhones when we were in high school and college,
Yeah.
you know?
And it's true. And that's the thing is this is where I think pop culture gets to be tough, is because we're looking at all these things where we don't have control over a lot of it. Like I know of from a high school principal in New England when I was living up there. I know of somebody who a freshman girl who had relations with a little bit older boy, and somebody snuck in and filmed it, and it got sent to the school. This is a freshman in high school
Wow.
that had no knowledge,
Well, yeah, there's
really?
a lot of things wrong with that.
there's a
but-
lot of, obviously this resulted in a lot of criminal investigations and charges and stuff, as it should. But I think the thing is until we stop popularizing these, the edges, the crazy stuff, we're not allowing enough of the innocence and the good stuff and everything to grow. So I think that's the challenge.
Well,
And I do
that's
think
fair.
there's a lot of good. I'm not saying the Kardashians is a family value show, but I do think there are good tidbits to take out of it. I think the business savvy. I think they're fiercely loyal to each other, which I respect.
Totally.
So there's
And that's
There's
that's
something to be
a
said for
lot
that.
of the criticism about the Kardashians and similar shows is what you just said. You're glorifying a lot of their behavior that maybe is not, the most honorable and whatever, to each his own. That's a fair criticism.
Well, if my thought is, if you like me, if you don't love all the negativity, if you don't love the edges, and I love the edges, but I don't like the bad stuff. I don't
Sure.
like making bad things out of it. And I know Laura's going to give me grief for saying that about the tape, but I don't know. It's just they're just tough people out there. They're just bad people in this world. And until all of you guys turn the channel and start watching Hallmark, I don't know how we're going to get past it. I mean, I think it's going to continue to be something that draws us in. So
Well, look, here's another pop culture reference for you that I'm sure you'll appreciate. Like, like the monologue that Cher gave in Clueless 25 years ago or whatever. I mean, you turn on the news and you see bad stuff, right? So I think she says, until mankind is peaceful enough to not have bad stuff happen on the news, might as well continue using it for entertainment value, right?
That's true. I like that. I don't remember that one, and I love that movie
Oh.
too. But it's I think that's a good one. So I think that's a good takeaway as we wrap, is if you're going to consume pop culture, look for the good. Look for the good.
Totally.
But if you can't find it and you're using it, use it for entertainment value, but not as a reason to tear down other people.
Totally. 100% agree.
I like it. Michelle, thank you for being here. We're going to have Michelle back again next week, talking a little bit more business and career transition and everything like that. So until then, watch the good stuff. And if it's bad, make sure that you're just using it for entertainment and not that you're spending tons of time and wasting your life on the bad. Focus on the good. And until next week, make it a good one.